The Jews of Hebron are heroes. There are 500 of them, surrounded by 120,000 very, very hostile Muslims.
The settlers in Hebron are illegally being there.
What's wrong with Jews living in Hebron? Why is that illegal? This is our land, and the Arabs know that, and they have Mecca, and they have Medina. This is our holy city, and we're going to stay there.
There's no place under the occupation that I hate more than Hebron. There's no place in the occupation that I hate more to go and visit than Hebron, and I'm doing my best to be there as little as possible. Because in Hebron you get really the occupation in its most brutal, cruel, insane, crazy expression. It is really the place of evil.
احنا من حد ما اجوا المستوطنين سكنوا في تل رميدة هون من 82. يعني ساكنين هون، احنا بيتنا هون على اليمين، المستوطنين ساكنين لنا على الشمال. الشارع هذا احنا كنا نمر منه ونجي بسياراتنا ندخل ونصف سيارتي على باب البيت هون. هي مستوطن صف سيارته وانا ممنوع ادخل سيارتي.
روحنا من المحل من عندنا قبل ما نروحنا نفكر كيف بدنا نصل، نطلع من الباب المحل يمكن في مستوطنين بالشارع يجوا يحطوا علينا احجار قبل ما نطلع، يعني لازم نبقى عاملين خطه انه كيف بدنا نطلع على البيت. انه مثلا احنا طالعين زي ما قلت لك انه ناكل حجر يطبشونا، ما بنعرفش يعني الواحد قبل ما يطلع من المحل لازم ياخذ احتياطات. احنا ما بنعرفش يمكن احنا ماشيين اي واحد يجي يطخ او شيء، يعني ما حتى الاولاد هم نايمين بقلب البيت. احنا هون كان هذا ما كانش في شبك هون، كان كله زي هيك بس دربزين، وهي لما اجوا المستوطنين صارت حجار على البيت حطت لنا اياه السلطه. يعني انت اي فر كل الدار عندنا كلها عليها شبك، انه المستوطنين اي محل بيشوفوا فيش عليه شبك بيطخوا لنا عليه. هي صار عشان محطوط الشبك يجيبوا مقص يوصلنا الشبك.
احنا على البيت ليش اسكر الباب؟ تدخليش انت. ما تدخلي. تسقري الدلة. ما تدخلي. تسقري الدلة. ما تدخلي. ما بديش اسكر الباب. شافت بابا كله. يلا وفي يا بيتا. شو دخلت؟ ليش انا بدي البيت؟ ما بدي ادخل البيت. ليش يعني انت؟ واو. اتصلي بالشرطة. شو جابك انت على هالصبح الله يهديك؟ شو بتعمل؟ شو بتعمل؟ لحالك شرطة. لحالك.
شرموط بكل بنات شلخ. ديري بالك انت ما تجيش هون. بدنا نطلع من برات البيت، انت ما لكيش عنا. اتركيها. مش عارفه شو بتعمل يا خيال.
To me, Hebron is being a pioneer, like in the beginning of the state of Israel. There are different types of swamps that people have to deal with. Then there were swamps and malaria. Now there are security problems and people who question our rights to living here. And by living here, we're stating a fact, and that the fact is that Hebron is the heart of the Jewish country, and it's where it all began. And we just want to have natural Jewish life here.
فداء فداء شريف يجي شريف والله اللي موتوها عيد شريف يا فداء خيال 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 الولد بده يطلع الولد هيو تحت مش عارف يطلع منهم وين اطيح الولد شريف
الو
شفتوش شو بيعمل؟ ليش عم تضرب فيه بس خذني انا مش شايف شو بيعمل الولد تعال جيب الولد شو عم تصيح فيه انت مش شايف شو بيعمل طب انت شوف الولد
Today in this situation in Eretz Israel, in Israel land, there are many questions. Why are we here? Or may we give anything to our enemies? And we are in the middle of a war, even if we are not saying it loudly. And I think that in Hebron there are not questions, there are only answers. We're here because of our patriarchs, that the God promised them that the land belongs to us.
You can say that this is the essence, the hardcore of the occupation. Because there are settlers living inside the middle, the Kasbah, the center of a Palestinian city. And you have the Palestinians there, and they are very extreme. And there is the army that's protecting them and protecting the Palestinians against the settlers. So you have all the elements for a Greek drama, you know. This is the essence of the occupation.
Hey! אתה יודע שזה פרובוקציה, אתה יודע שאתה עושה פה פרובוקציה.
באת לעשות פה פרובוקציה.
זה שטח
אתה
פרטי
באת
אגב.
לצלם מאוד בתמימות, הכנסת פה ערבים שאסור להכניס אותם. מאוד מאוד מאוד. אחר כך תבוא לצלם גם את החלקים שלנו עפים מרוב התלהבות. כן. מאוד מפריע לנו.
חיים את חייהם, אנחנו עושים את שלנו.
כן, אתם לא עושים את שלכם. אתם בדיוק כמו המחבלים שעושים את חייהם. תפסיק לנסות לחרחר ריב. תפסיק.
I think the camera is protecting me. Like I can be in situations that without camera it will be much more hard to bear. And with the settlers, that you're seeing stuff here, and sometimes thinking, just these people, what can we do with them? Because it's so crazy. I wish them a normal life, less hate, because they hate all the time. They hate. You see it in their eyes. You see in the body language. They hate. They're full of hate.
We are living in a liberal democracy with a free press and all of the other things that we take for granted in a democracy, and yet the reality in the occupied territories is very, very different. And surprisingly, in spite of the free press, in spite of the fact that you have hundreds of journalists covering the situation, it remains the case that the Israeli public really doesn't know what is taking place in the occupied territories. And I think they don't know because they choose not to know.
There was a war in 1948, a very long war and very cruel war, in which Israel gained 78% of the country of Palestine as it existed before. There was another war in 1967, in which Israel conquered the rest of Palestine. And the moment this war was finished and we saw these huge territories which we had conquered, there was a natural desire by some people to annex it to Israel. And after a few weeks and a few months passed by, and we suddenly saw there's no pressure at all on Israel to give back these territories, then slowly some people said, why not? Why shouldn't we get there and put our settlements there? The idea was to annex these territories. Wherever there is a settlement, the idea is to annex. The obstacle is that there is the Palestinian people living there. And then the question arises, how do you annex all these territories with 2.5 million or 3 million Arabs, Palestinians in them? And there are some people who say, just not take these 2.5 million Palestinians and push them out of Palestine, as we did to half the Palestinian people in 1948. So these are the settlers. These are the extreme settlers. And the most extreme are in Hebron.
حط الشبك هذا الجيش الإسرائيلي عشان المستوطنين بقعدوا بيجيبوا حجار برموها علينا إحنا على الناس اللي بتعدي من الشارع، فعشان هيك تركبوا كحماية لإلنا. فهالقيتا يعني هم هالقيتا عشان الحجار ما بتنزلش علينا صاروا يكبوا مي علينا ويكبوا الأشياء الوسخة علينا اللي بتنزل من الشبك اللي بتقدر تعدي من الشبك.
مية وسخة تبعت الغسيل، مية وسخة بيحطوا فيها مواد كيماوية بيرموها على الناس. الجيش بياكل في صحون، بيبعتوا له القيادة تبعتهم في صحون، بشخ في قلبهم وبرميهم على الناس. شو بدنا نقول؟ يعني إذا بدك نحكي بنحكي جرايد. بنحكي جرايد.
Hebron is probably the only city in the West Bank and Gaza, in the occupied Palestinian territory, to have settlements that are implanted at the heart of the city. And really the result of that is the slow death of the Palestinian population center for the benefit of the expansion of these settlements. You can see this as a trend since 2000, since the beginning of the recent Intifada, with the closures of all entry points into the old city. What we have since 2000 is closed areas where no Palestinian vehicle movement is allowed, another area where Palestinians are not allowed to go through, and no presence of Palestinians is allowed. And then you have closed shops.
You can't pass freely. You can't go freely to your hospital, to your home. You can't go freely to another village, to another city. You can't go to your university. More and more Palestinians are leaving. They're not allowed to open their shops. They're not allowed to access their homes. Even inhabitants are searched whenever they go in and out. They are doing everything possible to pressure people, to make them leave the old city so that settlers can take control.
أنا 5 متر من هون البيت تبعي. هلا بلف من فوق يعني حوالي نص كيلو باجي منشان أعد. فلكن هون 5 متر. يعني بعد السد هذا أنا 5 متر بيتي. لما أنا بدي أسكر هذا ليش سكرته؟ بقول لك وضع أمني، شو وضع الأمني؟ شو مسويين؟ شو فيه؟ بقول لك وضع أمني. هاي سكروا 8 متر 6 متر. يعني هذا سوبر ماركت كان، هذا استوديو تصوير، هذا بقالة، كله محلات كانت فاتحة هون وحياة عايشة الناس فيها. من شان بقول لك 400 واحد ساكنين هون، سكروا بلد بحالها.
Living here is really coming back to the Jewish roots. It's the first Jewish city. We know that Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebecca and Jacob and Leah are buried here, and according to Jewish tradition, even Adam and Eve are buried here. So it's bringing up a Jewish family in the place of the Jewish roots, in the basis of the Jewish people.
In any other country in the world, they would be defined as fascists, if not worse. There are a bunch of 500 or so people whose aim in life is to drive out 160,000 Palestinians whom they consider as strangers. These people who have come 30 or 40 or 50 years ago from Europe consider the inhabitants of Hebron, who've been there for 5,000 years, as strangers.
I believe it's important for everyone to come and see what's going on here and not just have their impression from the news, because the news is very slanted. And when people come, they show that this is a place where people can walk around and visit and feel normal in, and it's not what they see on the news, where they think it's just a military zone. I think, a lot of soldiers come here. In the beginning, they think, this is like an army base. And then they realize that this is not an army base. This is a place where Jewish people live.
I remember in the year 2000, 2001, and 2002 and 3, the whole 30,000 inhabitants of the old city of Hebron were under curfew, 200 days in the year. That lasted for 2 to 3 years. This caused Palestinians to leave, shift from the old city outside.
I served in Hebron in 2 different periods of times. I came first as a soldier in the end of 2001 till middle of 2002. Then I came back as a commander in March 2003 till like around December. And the first 2-3 weeks that we came to Hebron, when we went down to the city, you were all shocked. You're sent to wheeled shops and doors for Palestinians' houses. You see sterilized streets where Palestinians are forbidden to walk and only Jews are allowed to walk there. You have to force curfew for all the time, invade houses on a daily basis. You go and walk on the streets and you find yourself in front of graffitis that probably in Germany sounds, it sounds familiar, better than to us. Such as Arab to the gas chambers, gas the Arabs, Arabs out with the Stars of David and Hebrew in the middle. And there was a group of my platoon in the beginning who thought to refuse to serve in Hebron. We were shocked. We didn't believe what's going on, You come to a place that we have 2 sets of law by definition, that the orders are that you have to protect the settlers, and if you see them attacking Palestinians, you're not allowed to arrest them.
Of course, there are many military people who are being sent there and come back from there full of hatred against the settlers. Because the settlers are treating these military people as servants. They treat the military as a kind of personal security detachment whose job was to obey and serve the settlers. But the Israeli army has been infiltrated for many years now by the settlers. And in Hebron, this is very obvious. The army is a part of the settlement. The settlement is closely connected with the army.
The security presence in Hebron is heavy. Unfortunately, there are people that are trying to kill us. Many of the terrorists that wander around trying to blow themselves up anywhere from Beersheba up to Haifa have come out of Hebron. And the presence, the military presence is here is to protect us, but it's also to try to weed out these terrorists and see to it that they don't get to Tel Aviv and blow themselves up.
Although legally they are there to protect everyone, to impose the law on everyone, the actual soldier stationed there understands his job as protecting the settlers and stopping Palestinian terror.
Okay, so we will start. Probably will be guided by David Wilder to the left and Ophel. David is the spokesman for foreign press of the settlement of Hebron, and Ophel is documenting our work. I just offered them to speak with you guys to give their point of view, and they refuse because they say they don't cooperate with traitors during a wartime like today, traitors like me. So you will get only one perspective today, and I'm sorry for that.
I don't call him military. Yuda Shaul, who leads the group, is in any other normal country, they would put him on trial for treason and hang him. But unfortunately, Israel hasn't reached that level yet of justice. People express their opinions. Some people are put in jail when they express their opinions because it's called incitement and whatever. He does what he does. That's considered to be legitimate. However, I don't relate to them too much importance or significance.
Around the beginning of 2004, when I was in a platoon sergeant, I started to sit down and try to imagine my life as a civilian. And for me, that moment, I don't know how you could call it, but I find it always difficult in Hebrew to describe it, so for sure in English, but maybe you can call it an enlightenment moment. For me, this moment of trying to think as a civilian, stop thinking as a professional combat soldier. It's like, I don't know, you wake up every morning in front of the mirror, you brush your hair, you brush your teeth, you see your face, you smile to yourself. That morning you wake up, you stand in front of the mirror, and suddenly you see horns on your head. You realize that you're a monster. You realize, that in the past 2 years and 10 months, it was the helmet, gun, and uniform acting something else, that it's not Yuda. But when you think of it 1 second, you realize that it is Yuda. It's not the uniform that we're acting without a person. It's you, and you can't take it away. You start to realize that something mad went on. And for me, when I realized that, I felt that I can't continue my life without doing something with it. And the best way to do it is to bring people to the field, to let them to feel, to touch, to smell, to see. And to confront the society with the moral price of the occupation.
When you love somebody very, very much, and you love something very much, by nature, you stare at that person, you stare at that thing, you can't keep your eyes off of that person or place or thing. And God created the whole world, but His headquarters is Eretz Yisrael.
There are many Jewish communities, and not only Jewish communities, which understand the importance of Hebron to the Jewish people, the significance of Hebron, the significance of Jews living here, and people are able to express that support in different ways. Some people come to visit, some people send letters, some people wish to donate some of their money, and I think that proves, without any doubt, that people understand the importance of a Jewish community here in Hebron.
Our next stop, we'll go to a museum and learn about 1929. Welcome everyone to Beit Hadassah. In 1929, my friends, the Jewish community here lives in a disillusion that they actually have peaceful coexistence with their Arab neighbors. And they feel that here they're safe, here nothing bad will happen to them, here the Arabs would never dare attack or make problems. Here you can see a little bit the people that were killed and murdered, 67, and remember, in 1929 there was no West Bank. There were no settlers, there were no settlements, there were no legal outposts. And look what they did to us back then. This is just a little flavor of, God forbid, what they want to do to us today.
During that year in August of 1929, there were riots throughout Israel. Those riots climaxed in Hebron itself, here, where 67 Jews were murdered and another 70 were wounded. And the people who survived were expelled. They were thrown out by the British who were then ruling here. And as a result of that, basically, the Jewish community came to an abrupt end. So something that I try to stress, which people have a difficult time accepting, but what can you do? It's the truth. When we came to Hebron in 1967, we didn't occupy a foreign city. We came back home. We came back to the first Jewish city in the land of Israel.
I want you to look at the faces of those Yidden, of those Jews who were killed, sanctifying God's oneness. Shmuel Levi Rosenholz, the master of the yeshiva.
The narrative of the settlers and their claim starts from, we are a continuation to the Jewish community who lived there, was deported from there by the massacre. And that's not the truth. Of course, there are some people who come from families who lived there that agree with the settlements. But there are a lot of people who come from the Jewish community of Hebron who are against, fundamentally against the settlement of Hebron, fundamentally against the idea that 650 people can, have all their rights in the back of 150,000 people.
לכן יש משהו מרגש בהתרסקות בשנה הזו, בשנת ע"ז, בשנת עוז, לזכר קדושי תרפ"ט, הצטרפות של מה שאמרו רבותינו אין עוז אל התורה, זה כולל גם כן את הפשט שאין עוז אל התורה, והעוז הפנימי הוא נקודה מיוחדת שהייתה כאן בחברון.
Usually in Jewish holidays or weekends, a lot of people come, a lot of settlers from Kiryat Arba, a lot of people, visitors from Jerusalem, from outside. And one of the biggest fears of the IDF was that some of a Palestinian sniper will sit down here, one of the houses in Abu Snena, and will just slaughter everyone, all the prayers will walk here in the streets. So how you deal with it? For sure, weekends or in holidays, you post curfew on the Palestinians. Friday morning, you divide all the Palestinian neighborhoods around the settlement. You go, you search all the houses, you finish one round, take a rest in one of the houses, you lock the family in one room, you put observers on, you go to sleep. After 3 hours, you wake up, it's time for the second round. And again, that's another aspect of what it was to live here.
Is anything wrong here?
When they come to check the house, they ask me to collect all of the family, put them in the kitchen or in one room. They take off all of the clothes, the bags, the beds, all of that, and it's happened many times. They come to the house, they said, all of the family outside, but I said, it's raining outside. He said, I don't care. I remember one night, we stay from 1 o'clock after midnight until 4 o'clock, and it was raining over our head. And they said they want to check the house, and they know nothing of the house. And they had never found anything in the house, because we have nothing.
In 1968, and after the Six-Day War, and the great military victory that God gave to us, the Israeli government already back then wasn't sure of what are we going to do with the areas we've liberated in 67. Let Jews stay, let Jews move there, don't let Jews move there. And at that time, Moshe Levinger and his Rebbetzin Miriam Levinger get together and they advertise in the Israeli newspapers, come spend Pesach downtown Hebron, Park Hotel, and no sauna, and no Olympic-sized swimming pool, and no great musical entertainers, Chalamite, but yet a one-star hotel, windows provided if you pay extra money, 30 families registered for the Passover service.
They were there in this hotel. Then the government decided to take them out of there and to put them into the military government building, which was an old British police fortress. And then they multiplied, and the military government could not function anymore. They just turned the military government building into a private settlement. So the government decided, let them take out of Hebron, let's put them into a new settlement called Kiryat Arba.
In 1970, Golda Meir came along, says, I got the solution, and that solution is called Kiryat Arba. And she built this beautiful, beautiful suburb with low-interest mortgages, cheap housing, Olympic-sized swimming pool, really, sauna, jacuzzi, tennis courts.
This became a big fascist-dominated settlement, the center of all fascist elements in Israel. And then they started from Kiryat Arba to infiltrate again back into Hebron. So slowly, little step after little step after little step after little step, they occupied this part of Hebron, where, as you know, even in this part, the settlers are a small minority and they terrorize the Arab majority into this quarter of Hebron.
هذا الكل يمر فيه. هذا أحلى شارع كان في الخليل، أحلى شارع، شارعنا أحلى شارع. الفلاح يفوت، القروي، المدني، السائح للحرم ينزل، الكل ينزل عليه. بس لا ولا حد، ما أنت شايف، لحموا علي الأبواب، لحموا علينا الأبواب كلها سكروها. من وقت الانتفاضة سكروا عنا الباب الرئيسي بنطلع منه من تحت، باقي فاتحين يعني شوي هيك نروح ونجي على الخفيف بالسرقة من المستوطنين. أما هاقيت لهم 4 سنين مسكينه من مرة علينا. هاقيت إحنا بننزل من عند بيت الجيران، من عن سطوح الجيران قاعدين بننزل وبنتحمل مشقة وتعب وعن سلالم وعن حيطان مشان ما نتركش بيتنا لليهود وللمستوطنين ياخذوه. هاي مستوطنين، هاي مستوطنين. هون المستوطن، هون مستوطن، في الدبوية مستوطن، تل رميدة مستوطن، عند الحسبة مستوطنين، يعني دور ما دورنا مستوطنين وجيش. لحموه كله الدكان والباب البيت، ما خلوش ولا إشي يعني في الشارع هذا اللي لحموه. أحسن أن نطلع يعني بدهم المستوطن يمشي براحته المستوطن، أما إحنا يسكروا علينا الأبواب ما نعرفش نعدي من باب دارنا. وهي أغلبية الناس طلع من هون فيش غير إحنا ودار مليانة ما بيعرف يعني أنو ساكن في هالمحيط. وإحنا ممكن العادي إذا بدها تضل هيك حياتنا نجر هالدار.
I have no doubt that if today another 200,000 Jews moved into Judea and Samaria, a lot of the Arabs who were here would pick up and leave. We don't have to throw them out. I don't know that I don't know that today I favor that. I'm not looking for forced expulsions of everybody, but I have a feeling that if they see masses of people coming over, not to take their homes away from them, just to settle in the land here, that a lot of them will just leave.
You know, any normal human being have a specific set that once about beyond this point I cannot take it anymore. My children cannot take it anymore, so I'm gonna have to leave. So this is my fear. My fear is that the migration of the Palestinian population is going to continue, and that the Israelis, the Jewish settlers are going to attain their goal to transform the old city into a Jewish enclave or a Jewish ghetto that no Palestinians are allowed to go through it or live in it.
Basically, it is a fight about land. As I wrote it 2 weeks ago, a fight about real estate. And the territory is the main core. I am not among those who think that this dispute in the Middle East is a religious one. It is a nationalistic one, and the main dispute is about land. Look even at the transfer. There was a real transfer in Hebron. Nobody talks about it. There are something about 15, 20, 25,000 people who had to leave their homes. It is just because those crazy people tyrannized their neighbors until they had to leave.
Now, the Shuhada Street that we're just walking on used to be the main part of the Hebron market. Try to imagine in your head an oriental market of a city of 150,000 people. Since 94, it's closed down. In the beginning of the Second Intifada, the Shuhada Street was announced as a sterilized street, meaning Palestinians were prevented even to walk here. Not only drive, not only open the shops, even to walk.
The Palestinians have many Arab states with huge territories. If they want a Palestinian Muslim government, they can have that in Saudi Arabia, in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran, in Morocco, all of those places where the Arabs live, in Egypt, in Jordan. We believe in the divine promise to this country, to the Jewish people who would like to live as guests here. They're invited, but to think that they can run the country, that's not possible.
There's enough states to the Arabs. There is not Palestinian nation. There is not. There was not a nation before we came here, and they are not today. They came from many lands and states. They were Bedouin. Okay, that's what they was. There was not Arabs here before we came here. There was only some hundreds. Okay, 100 or 100,000. This is not what we are talking today. And we have to look at the eyes and everyone in the world and say, that's not their land.
The settlers in Hebron and people like them have a clear-cut solution for the conflict, that is ethnic cleansing, pure and simple. All the Arabs, all the Palestinians have to leave Palestine. If you want, on the book of Joshua in the Bible, God commanded Joshua to kill every non-Israeli in the country, and after 3,000 years or so, they stick to it.
At dawn, in the cave of the patriarch, sacred to both Arabs and Jews, Baruch Goldstein opened fire with an automatic rifle.
Entered the mosque in an army uniform and opened fire.
A settler opened fire in a crowded mosque in the West Bank town of Hebron. At least 40 Palestinians were killed, scores more wounded.
Minutes earlier, these people had been praying, celebrating the Arab fast of Ramadan. They were mercilessly gunned down by an Israeli settler.
It is one of the most militant settlements on the West Bank, and he was among its most militant members.
I must remind you that Goldstein not only killed so many Palestinians, he is directly responsible to all this wave of suicide bombers who started only after his massacre. Would I be a Palestinian? I can tell you, when you see Hebron and you see what's happening to them, you can only come to one conclusion, that the Palestinians are one of the most tolerant people in the world. Even I would say one of the less violent people in the world. Because any people would explode if people would have done what they are doing there.
My name is Asmi Jandis. I am the owner of this house. I am with my family, and we used to live it since 50 years.
So it was occupied by...
It's now occupied by 20 people. Up there, they are staying there.
But I need that you know.
We've heard that they have taken another house. Which house?
This house, my neighbor.
Who? What's his name?
His name Sha'rawi. He's my neighbor. Was living inside this house, and when he go outside to this land outside the cities to stay a few weeks as in summer usually, they come in. And when we talked to the army, he said, okay. Then he closed this door to us and opened that door for the settler. This is what did by the military governor of the army.
Well, if they are still going to be thinking that they are God-chosen people, well, we do not believe that God is a real estate agent saying, okay, this land is for you guys and this God is for you. For me specifically, if there's going to be a God, one of his most important merits is that he's going to be just, that he's going to be fair. He's not going to be saying, okay, these are my people and the rest of the people is trash. This is something that it's not just us as Palestinians. No other people will accept that. That treat us as less than human. And not only that, you're going to take our land and deprive us of all of our rights. Nobody will accept that.
We're going now to visit one of our friends, El-Azir family, Hashim El-Azir, who lives in Tel Rumeida. For sure, the main and the right way to go to Tel Rumeida would be probably up the hill in the junction, take a left, but there are settlement and the Palestinians can't walk there in front of the settlement. Their only way in and out the house is through the way that will go down.
You see, this is the part of Kurtuba school, as you see from here. And you see the girls here, they are waiting the children until they come from here. And as they said, as you see, Idbakh al-Arab, kill all of the Arabs. They said in Arabic, Idbakh al-Arab, kill all of the Arabs. This is what they said. And this is Israel. Israel, there is no Palestine. This is the land of Israel.
الطفل المستوطن اليهودي من أولى خطواته بيتعلم كيف هو بيكره العرب، بيرضعوه كراهية العرب لدرجة إنه أول كلمة بينطقها إنه بيسب على كل واحد عربي، علما بإنه اعتدائهم واضح. حتى إحنا بنصور الاعتداءات اللي بتصير، بنصور بالفيديو وبنقدم لهم الشريط إنه هم اللي جايين معتدين، وكمان بيكون إحنا بيبقوا جايين على بيتنا وبيكون الحق علينا كمان، وإحنا بنتغرم وإحنا اللي بنعتقل.
You see the guys down the stairs, they are throwing stones to them. And you see, this is the car of the police, and always nothing happened.
Sorry, who is throwing the stones?
The settlers, the guys down the stairs, and the girls up the hill, they attacked the students.
We can't just say this is a crazy group and we have nothing to do with it. We Israelis, we all carry responsibility to what is happening in Hebron. And therefore, so many times I feel myself deeply ashamed to be Israeli when I see those things, because it's on my behalf. Those people are there under my government, under my state, and I'm part of it, and each of us Israelis are part of it, and each of us Israelis are paying the price.
Life is not easy in Hebron, but we get much more. We get meaning. We get the knowledge that we are doing something important. Of course, for the Jewish people, for the Jewish history, for the word of God, but not only, because we are doing something very important to the whole world. Now the whole world tries to find a way how to stand against the terror, against the Islamic terrorism, and we show a way. We show the way to say terror should stop, and it should stop here.
Look, please, will you stop them instead of... Will you please stop? Will you please use some brains? They are the ones who are attacking. There, that one hit me.
Sorry, didn't see.
Beating, hitting, insulting is one of settlers' practices of their daily life on daily basis. And that's again reflected in a number of attacks that took place against internationals who will come in and they're outraged by the way that these settlers are behaving, and they try to reduce to the least number of incidents of beatings against the Palestinians, and they are seen by the settlers as misrepresenting history, and that it's a given fact that we are the chosen people, and you as internationals are supposed to be actually siding by us against Arabs and Palestinians, because this is what God has said.
Hi. As a black South African, I can't comprehend what Israel is trying to do to the Palestinians. You know, they were trying to compare the two scenarios, but for me, they're incomparable. We didn't have high walls. We never had a single exit and entry point. We never had a street that was per se only for the other group of people, but we could one way or the other go to the same town, enter the same shops. But here it's not comparable. You know, they usually call it apartheid, but for me it's incomparable. This for me is very distressful.
Hey, Nazi. I'm old enough to remember what a Nazi is. Well, that's better than these days.
We do school patrols at all the schools at the other end of town. But there is another organisation, the Ecumenical Accompaniers in Palestine. And their volunteers concentrate on patrolling here. And they stay for the morning at the school and then make sure that the children come home again safely too.
And every time they are international people, they've got no problem with the settlers.
Oh yes, they have problems with the settlers too, yes.
Would you control this girl?
She's not supposed to be here. זה מקום של יהודים, תצאי מפה. זה מקום של יהודים.
Get her out of here.
יהודים,
Get her out of here.
Get her out of here. Why not?
תפלי גם את וגם הערביות איתה.
Of course, we oppose these groups being here. For them to come from where they're coming from, it would be if I walked into a hospital and walked into an operating room and said, I'm here, let me help. You know, the doctor's got the patient open and you've got 5 doctors working and the anesthesiologist and the nurses, and here I am, I'm, all set, give me a knife. They'd look at me and say, but you don't know anything. You're going to kill him. And the kids know this as well as we do.
You asshole, you suck. You and you fucking Jesus could kiss my ass, okay? Go away. Screw you. Don't camera, no camera. I break your camera. Don't take picture. Okay? Screw you, you Nazi. You fuck. Don't take camera. I break your camera. Don't take picture. Shabbat shalom, no picture. We don't want picture.
Leave.
You can't come in here. This is not your house.
We killed Jesus. We're proud of it. Where are you?
I would like to see the international community support us and give us backing in this activity, and to understand that their homes are now in danger. You see, the Islamic terrorism attacks the whole world now. And if we do not put a wall against this terror, all Europe is in danger. All the Western society.
This is my land, you
This is not your land. It belongs to these families.
land, you son of a bitch. I'm gonna kill you and the Palestinians. You Nazi, you son of a shit. This is my house. This is my land. God gave it to me. And fuck you.
Most of the Israelis have not a slightest idea what's going on in Hebron. The media hardly shows them. Nobody wants them to know. And we became a society which cares only about itself. And even this less and less. And all the rest, we have this wonderful excuse of security. If this doesn't work, we can always bring up the Holocaust. Citing the late Golda Meir, who said that after the Holocaust, the Jews have the right to do whatever they want. And that's the way of thinking. And human rights is really something for European salons, but not for our reality. We are not dealing with it. We deal only with our fate.
It's written. He created the world and he gave Israel to the Jews. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are my forefathers. Do you dispute that? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are my forefathers. Are you disputing that?
These are children.
I first want to speak truth.
I first want to speak about children.
No.
Just to realize that this is the heart, geographically and spiritually, of the Jewish people. This is where it all began. The whole world knows the Bible, and the Bible has a lot of promises that were promised to the Jewish people. A lot of them were promised in Hebron or about Hebron. So I just believe the world has to go back to the Bible, and then they can understand what Hebron's all about.
Tell your children not to hurt these children. That's all I have to say to you.
Pardon me. I'm living here. I know what goes on here.
I live here too.
I know what goes on here. I'm living here for over 30 years, and I know exactly what's going on here. And the problem is that we have a Bible, and our Bible was stolen, was plagiarized.
I find it very hard to understand how they can feel like that. And equating us with Nazis and what we're doing with the Holocaust seems to me a quite extraordinary reading of what's gone on in the last 60 years. No, I was a child in Britain during the Second World War, when the entire efforts of the whole nation were devoted to defeating Nazism and Hitler. So, yeah. And where we welcomed and cheered on as a young woman the foundation of the State of Israel, as it seemed faced with the horrific discovery of the extent of what had gone on in the Holocaust, that for the Jewish people to have a land of their own seemed so entirely right. And of course, I didn't understand that this was going to be at the expense of the existing local inhabitants.
You're swimming in hypocrisy, all of you. You're all a bunch of anti-Semites, and you want to see the end of the Jews. And because of that, you think you use the Arabs.
You don't listen.
You use the Arabs.
You beat this boy. Why?
How you?
Who beat him then? Who beat him?
Yes.
Who beat him? Who beat the boy?
Yes, I will move.
Okay, I saw.
شو صار معك؟
بس اجوا هيك بعد الظهر قعدوا اختي ومرت اخي بدهم يدخلوا عندهم بدهم يقولوا لي اطلع برا وتهجموا عليهم مساكين قاصعها خلينا سحبوني برا وقعدوا يضربوني
وين ضربوك؟
هون عرفت
خلوا ضربوه في
بعدين هي
جميع جسمه ضربوه
ايوه
جابونا هون هيك فانا قاعد
Be happy having this picture taken.
This is disgusting.
Well, Joshua, he was a fighter. Moses, where it says Moses led the people out of Egypt. But then Moses died.
There is an imminent corruption process, moral corruption process, that is part of occupation. When you take an 18-year-old man, you dress him with uniform, you give him a gun and the power to control people, it's like a math equation. 1 + 1 ends 2. This ends of abusing Palestinians, destroying their property, looting, shooting against the orders, or with the orders and hurting innocent people. It's something that you can't avoid when you're there. Because when your mission is to blindfold and handcuff some Palestinians on the side, and you see thousands of these around you every day you know a couple, dozens of them, you can't really try to see them as human beings. You can't really even have the thought what they think now, what they feel now, what's going on. This kid is sitting here 14 hours blinded, handcuffed. What's going on with him? He's not a kid anymore. And it becomes more and more difficult because the relationship between the army and the settlers doesn't only stay on this level in the field of, trusting settlers more because settlers are on our side. And the real story is the political power that settlers have. It's the power to influence the commanders, the brigade officer. He's the sheriff of Hebron, right? He controls everything. He sneezes, all Hebron feels it. And every brigade commander of Hebron knows that if he will confront the settlers, he'll finish his army career.
That's a soldier truck, right? It is a soldier truck. That's not good, is it? Mishkle.
طيب هلا اخذوه هلا عمل هلا كيف بدنا نوصل للولد؟
How they can reach him. Darkan.
وكيف بدنا نوصل للولد؟
The boy, he don't have ID card. How they can reach him? He don't have an ID card. He's 15 years old.
When I came here in 2001, this building was still full. This building is still like around 3-4 Palestinian families used to still live here. They were the only one who were allowed to walk in this road and through the gates. Today you can see this building is totally empty. This building has like 3 or 4 families left inside. This building is a very actual story, this building. And you can see how it's blocked now. The settlers invaded here in the beginning of February, and according to Israeli law, if someone invades to a property that doesn't earn it, if you don't take him out at the first 30 days, the only way to take him out is through a very long legal procedure. And during all history of this place, every time when they invaded, they were never taken out in the first 30 days. This time, it was the first incident in the whole history of the settlement here in Hebron that law was enforced really in time.
On the one hand, you have massive investments to set up communities there. I mean, what look like permanent towns and villages of Jews living in the occupied territories, but the West Bank has not been annexed. Military law continues to apply. So it's quite ambivalent in that sense. What is the future of those territories? I mean, in some cases, Israel maybe is operating contrary to its long-term interests, that areas that now the government is talking about pulling out of. I mean, we have invested a lot of money there. It will now take a lot of money to uproot those people.
אני מבקש מכולם להתפנות מרצונכם הטוב והחופשי.
שלוחי השטן! שלוחי השטן! תתביישו לכם! סבא שלכם בוכה בשמיים עכשיו! תראו לאן הבנים שלו הגיעו! משת"פים של ערבים! משת"פים של ערבים גיבורים על יהודים, משת"פים של ערבים! והם גיבורים על יהודים, משת"פים של ערבים!
We are faithful to God's word, to the Bible, and to the truth, not to this politician or to other. You know, in the Israeli history, in the Jewish history, in the Bible, there were many kings. Many of them were evildoers. Many of them were sinners. And the Bible doesn't say a good word about them. And the prophet said, you know, Elias, he said to the king Ahab, you are a murderer. So to be a good Jew is to be faithful to justice and to truth, not to a political regime. It can be a king, it can be a prime minister, never mind. And this is what I would like to see all the moral people in the world that don't obey to sinners and corrupted regimes.
זה ערבי פה, זה בעד ישראל. זה התפקיד שלנו, כנגד ערבים, לא כנגד ילדים קודשים. כן, אם אתם יהודים, לא, אי אפשר זה פעולה. יש לב בתוך כל זה. יש נשמה, יש חסד, יש רחמים.
גר פה, אתה עובד באיזושהי טלוויזיה? That's what to ask you. You're a reporter from where?
From Israel. I'm not talking to you. Are you because you're not
I want to know.
because you're not. Are you pulling the people out of the house?
No, I want to
right.
ask
So
you
I'm
a
telling people
question.
that I'm telling people. Listen, I'll talk to you next week. I'll have coffee in Jerusalem. Okay. You're crazy. כנגד ילדים, ערבים, שם, רק לערבים.
My fear today, my problem that I have today isn't with Hebron. My problem today is with the continued existence of the Jewish people here in the state of Israel, because we're committing suicide. We're virtually committing suicide, and this is what we have to stop. Could it happen? Could an Israeli government decide to pick us up and throw us out of our homes in Hebron? Yeah, it could. And it could happen anywhere today. However, if that happens, I think that we're dealing with an existential threat to the state of Israel, and it has to be stopped.
Without returning the whole West Bank, there will not be a just peace. There will not be a lasting peace. There will not be a peace. And you know, time is running out, and with 250,000 settlers in the West Bank, it's becoming almost too late, maybe too late already, because it will not be very easy to evacuate them. But without this, nothing will move, and we will go just from one war to the other.
We stole the olives. There is nothing. That's what it's meaty part. It needs clean, yes.
From the international law perspective, all settlements are illegal. The Israeli citizens should not be living in Hebron. It is occupied territory. You cannot have the occupiers' people living in that territory. But when you compound that with the reality of Hebron, I mean, you have a few hundred settlers, tens of thousands of Palestinians, and the Palestinians are paying a very severe price in restrictions on movement, in being subjected to violence, in all of this harassment and suffering as the result of a very small settler population. So if we are calling for all the settlements to be dismantled, it's clear that Hebron has to be first as far as we are concerned.
פלסטינים מאושרים פה למסוק את כל הזרים, יש פה צו איסור כניסה, כל הזרים אסור להיות. אסור להיות. אל תבואו, אל תשאפו אותם, בוא נרד אנחנו. איך תלך לבא? זה של השכונה. כל זה של השכונה פה. מה? יש לך שכונה, יש להם צו מאושר למסוק. זה חלקה של הפלסטינים. איפה עומד? בתוך השכונה. נשייך פה לשכונה.
It's their policy. They want to push us to leave. They attack us
They want to make us suffering in our life. Also destroy our economic situation. When I have trees, when I have a life, I will protect it. I try to live in it. But when I lose everything, they think that I will leave. But one day I told them that if I see my kids, my family, dead body, I will never leave this house. Because my father, he was dead body and did not leave this house. And I am the same.
يلا لماتا تعوف لماتا لا ناتي غير لماتا look man look you are a stealer don't steal our order you are welcome come to my house if you are Palestinian
This is our land here. This is our land here. This is my land. No, this is my land here.
It's our land. What's your use?
תראה, הוא תוקף עם העדר. הוא תוקף עם העדר, אישה עם תינוק. הוא תוקף עם העדר, אישה עם תינוק. הוא תוקף עם העדר. הוא תוקף עם העדר.
There's no real debate about this in Israel. The ordinary Israeli has no idea what's happening there. He does not know, he does not want to know. We see here something which we have known in the darkest day of our history, namely that after it was finished, everybody said, I didn't know. No one told me. I did not know. I didn't know. I didn't know. Of course they did not know because they did not want to know.
Yalla, yalla. Oh, you're so human being. You're so nice person. You will care about human being. Only if they're not Jews. Only Arab is human being. Only they can be alive. Oh, you're such a nice person. Such a nice person.
My main complaint, my main scream, my main anger is toward the government who enables all this. Because you see crazy extremists, fundamentalists, you have in every society. The problem is how much power do they have and how much freedom do they have to implement their crazy ideas, their violent ideas, their vicious ideas.
During all the human being history, a lot of disasters human beings did. Much worse things than the occupation, even in Hebron. But still, very few people did it. A bit more people benefit from it. But a majority of human beings in the world were silenced with it. And this is the problem. People must understand that in this situation, you have only two camps. Either you're for it or against it. Being silenced is being for it. Not everyone has to, to live a life of resistance. But everyone is obligated to stop being silent.